Okay, let's see now. Who is this I'm talking to right now at the present? I believe this is Mr. H.C. Speir.
H.C. Speir, that's correct.
H.C. Speir. This is Jackson, Mississippi, February the 8th.
February the 8th.
1970. This is a continuation of some questions we started a couple of months back, Mr. Speir. And, of course, these questions are, you give whatever comments you think is worthy. There's no comment worthy of being given. You say, I just bypass it.
Yeah.
We're getting a number of things here. Do you think the people who ran the blues sessions, we're talking about the A&R man or the director of the session, knew anything about tuning guitars or noticed if guitars were out of tune, let's say, when a blues
So they couldn't. No, very few of them could detect that.
Could you detect this when
yes,
you were?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Especially on, in other words, the tuning didn't have a whole lot to do with it, but the main thing was is way the tone would enter into the mic. A lot of them didn't know how to handle that.
How would you handle this?
Well, in other words, I could tell when hearing the song many times I'd heard it, I could tell, when they was going to come into a higher pitch or so more to it. Back in those days, they didn't have, these diaphragms, they didn't have just one. And you could blast that diaphragm by high sound.
Or a low sound, maybe one.
Yeah, they could go make, rumbling noise like, but you just have to, whenever if you're recording anybody that's coming in and know when it's coming, you could turn the dial back a little bit and offset that and make it still work out pretty smooth.
Now, did most of the companies record singers on the singer's guitars? In other words, did they have a guitar, say, when a singer came into the studio to give to the singer, or did they just use his
No, sir,
own
they
guitar
said he had his own, there's had 2 or 3 different makes. Hardly ever get a Gibson in there. Gibson never did record good.
What about a Martin?
Martin was fairly good.
Now, this is nine blues.
Yeah.
Now, what was the best guitar for recording blues?
All those old big old jumbos.
Is that the Washburn?
Yeah, Washburn, any of those, you see.
Or a Stella?
Stella was the best of all of them.
To record blues?
They had 3 different sizes.
Stella had 3 different sizes?
Yeah, 3 different sizes.
They had what you call a black Stella in those days?
Oh, I don't remember. But you mean
Black
just
Annie Stella or something like that? Called it Black Annie? Or?
No, I don't remember that. Well, Stella had a kind of a sound that would echo.
Mm-hmm.
Had an echo sound.
Be really blues.
Yeah, that's right, blues. It harmonized with the blues. See, a Martin, Gibson, they're very fine guitars, but they would hold the resonance of the tone would be more or less kind of in the box, you understand.
They were good for hillbilly music or fiddling music.
Oh, yeah, fiddling music, all right. That's right.
Stella was better for blues.
Yeah, had better. It's just like sounds that you can make in certain homes, like a home, and the acoustics could be ideal. Another place it wouldn't sound right at all,
Can you remember any instances where you got in the studio and you would say, before they start or during takes, you'd say, let me go help this singer. You remember having you go to Hayes here that night and you said, well, tune that guitar down for me.
Well, yes, that's...
You tell them to tune the guitar, run their fingers across there.
That's right. Sometimes I do that.
And this is because you thought the guitar was out of tune? Or
no, to get a better sound.
Get a better sound.
A better sound. You can tell by listening, you understand, what you want if you know how to do it, you see, and I was pretty well, not the best in the world, but I knew pretty well how to do that.
Give me the first.
You got that now, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, we back recording again.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find these questions. Okay, besides getting a good studio sound, what was with any tricks in getting a singer to give out a good performance?
How's that?
Any tricks? Were there little tricks you knew that helped a singer to give a better performance?
Oh, no, they're not so much, except sometimes they might be huddled too close together, and you might have one instrument that wasn't coming in, that should be appreciated, you see. See, a lot of times they'd use 2 guitars, something like that. Well, if you get, in other words, suppose that the way they were sitting and the guitars were just turned away from the mic, well, maybe the other one would be predominant. It'd be coming in a little over the other one, you see. Well, you want to harmonize it as much as you can.
You back the other guitar away from the mic.
Get the distance. That right now, we could have better programs over the TV and radio now if they get away from the mic.
What about talking to the artist before a record session? Like, would you go up to one of these blues singers and say, "Now I know you can sing good, and take your time"? Did you have a way of talking to them to make them feel at ease?
Well,
like you said, you were nervous a while ago before we started this, and I'm sure they were nervous. Did you?
Not they, no, because it's just always most of the people I handle is really they didn't mind taking a little drink before they get them kind of halfway.
Halfway drunk.
Just feeling pretty happy. You understand? Then they do a lot better. It seems to remove any fear at all.
You can get them in a state where they're happy.
That's right.
Well, if they got too drunk on you, what would you do?
Oh, just throw them up for the next day.
If
they went too far, you understand? Hold them on the next day.
I see. In other words, would you ever advise companies on how to handle their artists in the studio? Like, we'll say OK was here in Jackson, and Brockman was running the session, and he was having trouble with a singer or something. You kind of go over and say, "Now you got to do this or do this," and you'll be able to. In other words, would you tell him sometimes, "Once you do this or do that"?
No, I never did interfere with them much. In other words, we didn't have any too much trouble. That's a very minor thing. The main thing was that the most of the recorders in my day and time didn't understand was the acoustics.
Acoustics,
yeah. Whether where the walls might be, get too close to the walls, or didn't use a canvas or something. There's certain things that whenever you're recording, you got to keep that tone more or less where the tones won't bounce back too bad. See, you get a dead sound when you do like that.
Which company had the best sound on the record?
Oh, I'd say the way they recorded everything, I'd say OK and Columbia.
The best sound. Paramount sound was.
They usually did. Sometimes they pick up, especially at the studios.
Did you ever notice the difference? And I think I pointed this out when I played a record. How that it seemed to me on the Paramount records that an artist's voice tended to sound a little bit lower. It kind of changed, not the tone, but took away his treble of his voice and made it sound a little bass.
Actually, what most of these off companies, it's what we call it's a mechanical voice. You understand?
Yeah. What do you mean by mechanical?
Mechanical, it just doesn't take in the full scope of the tone. You understand?
Yeah,
become more like mechanical. You see.
Paramount had a lot of trouble with their rapping.
Yeah.
Was always having trouble.
You see, in other words, you must keep in mind now, in recording records, these plates they have would play a great part in it too. A lot of people don't know that, but it does. In other words, they had a whole lot because that old stuff was wax, and just let the temperature the least bit would almost would affect a tune.
So this been going on. Did Paramount? Did they have trouble with this?
Yeah, they didn't have their wax. I guess it might have been as good as others, but might not have been handled as careful as others. You understand? They had to kill that stuff in a box seal.
And then when they got through, take it and throw it in the refrigerator. Was this what they did in the
Yes,
box?
sir. That's right. In other words, if they left that stuff exposed just a little bit at all, you understand, well, and then you didn't get the full sound at all.
In other words, it did something to the grooves.
You've heard the old expression about it sound like a tin pan? That's what I'm talking about right there. Tin pan tone, like we call.
So these are how masters got ruined sometime, or the tones
Yes,
affected by leaving them out.
Right. Yeah.
As soon as they were recorded, they took them and dropped them into an
You see, that little groove is so narrow.
Mm-hmm.
If the heat just moved that just a little bit, come in on that groove there, you didn't have a good tone record. It sounded pretty good maybe for a few lines, and then when you got to maybe a little area there, it varied just a little bit. You see, offset. That's the reason my other records didn't ever go over. It was due to the way the master was recorded.
Now, on blues singers, did this make a difference too?
Not much, no.
Not as much on the blues singers as on the other singers.
No. You tell it more by violin than anything else.
On the fiddle.
Yes, sir. It changes there now.
Yeah.
But you take that old guitar on, and good gracious alive, man. Them picking those two of them going at a time, you just pass over these rules, and you would hardly never notice it there, you see.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you noticed on Paramount anyways, with Paramount Center,
Yeah.
all that static in them, in other words, like it. Do you think that if you'd been, you'd have had more luck with singers if you'd have been dishonest with them? I say dishonest, you know what I'm talking about, whereas not getting as much money as you did for them, and
I don't know. There's one thing sure that I'm doing this in my land business today. A lot of people know I can make lots more money if I was, would be a little bit more brazen, I call it. That is, just say, well, I'm going to make it regardless.
mm-hmm.
I never, when dealing with talent and people like that, I was honest with all of them. I never tried to do anything that would be that I would want one of them to do to me. All I was doing was just make enough money to get by. I was selling these. I didn't take it on royalty. Of course, I have to admit I made a mistake. That was the worst mistake I ever made in my days, but not tying up my talent and let me be the manager, you understand?
Make the company come
Yes,
to you
sir.
instead of bypassing you.
Well, if I suppose I went to Memphis or Atlanta, Georgia, which I have, and kept 10 people, and maybe I'd come out there at about $100 apiece.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I got back home with $1,000 and all my expenses paid, I could jump to the ceiling. I was happy, you see.
Put that in your business, or use
Put it in my business. I needed it because I'd have gone broke had it been for this recording business.
in other words, your record store business.
Yes, sir.
Why would you have gone broke, if I ask? Because records
Well,
didn't sell that good, or what?
No, you didn't. With that depression, you just don't know the half, boy.
Oh, this is what saved you during the Depression.
Yes, sir, during the Depression. People would buy the records if they had the money, but my goodness alive, a lot of people sometimes wouldn't have $1 for the whole day to eat and live off of.
So they
I've
would pay
seen that.
75 cents for a record when I didn't even have
No,
$1
sir,
to eat off.
$1 to eat off of, you see.
I was going to say,
And still my expenses going on now, because I had clerks, rent, and all like that, And so I hate to fire anybody. So, but I pulled through.
you pulled through it, made it
Yeah.
through the Depression. You suppose that a lot of these blues singers recorded for you because they trusted you, and wouldn't have recorded for you if they hadn't trusted you?
Well, I think so. We might put it this way. Maybe we'll just say with all my honesty and everything that we'll just say that it was 100%. Anytime a man wants to, he's so anxious to get on, or he wants to make a record, and he's heard some of his other pals do it and so on like that, and he thinks he's got something, he doesn't stop to think about whether you're dishonest or not. In other words, he's willing to go all the way.
So this is the reason these other guys were able to take advantage, those who did,
Yeah.
of a singer if they
Yeah.
wanted to, because a singer was so anxious to.
I know almost all those fellows that I had numbers of them that pulled stunts like that, and of course they didn't last any too long. And in fact of it, I don't think they have any too good a name among people today that knows them. You understand? What was that old fellow? Caraway, was that his name? Calloway. He was a bad one.
Well, Roy Cook told me that. He told me how he did him.
Yeah.
How he copyrighted some songs.
Well,
You know, his
he
name
was what we
always
call
in
a stealer, like, you understand. But I don't met just 2 or 3 that was like that. Just between you and me, old Art Label was pretty good at that if he could get by with it.
Well, it may have been all of them like this if I could get by with it, to an extent. I mean, they thought they could make extra money out of it because.
Art was good to me, and I don't misunderstand, but still, if he could make a swap or exchange without me knowing it, he did it, and I know he did it long down the line somewhere.
You mean a swap on talent, get talent?
Yeah, run ahead of me, you see. You
That's
get
been
'em.
yours,
Yeah, that's right. I've had little jokes here and there.
That's the question I was leading into, because most of the people you talk to about the record business, these are the days businessmen, the ones that handle blues singers, agree that it was often pretty crooked.
Yeah, well,
And this, like this man in Birmingham, and this Limbo's wife, Hooker Bina, she says he never could get his royalties from the companies, or from the people they worked with. They had trouble. And the companies,
well, now most of the talent I handle, they got a share just like I did.
Mm-hmm.
I saw to that. It wasn't much, maybe 50.
Sometimes the companies had ways of not getting.
See, if I got $100 for a talent and they made 2 or 3 records, well, he got $100 too.
Mm-hmm. The only time you had any real trouble with this was with this Hattiesburg.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm talking about. In other words, you never got paid until much later, and didn't get paid at all for the session.
I didn't get paid out of anything at all. I was robbed there.
Did Sadly ever try to make that up to you?
No.
You think he ever knew about that since he was working with Callaway?
No, Callaway hogged that. That's what I was telling you a few minutes ago. He hogged that deal.
Yeah, that was typical of the things he did. Yeah, let me see now. I was looking for one. Do you have any idea what brought so many musicians into the Delta? Would it have been the money?
Well, yes, it would be, because if you was living up there and didn't get nothing, they were starving to death.
But I mean, the blues singers, was there a lot of money floating around where blues
Well,
singers...
you just imagine they did make some money too, because it wasn't everybody at the Delta that lived up there. There was people that floated in there to pick cotton and things like that, you see.
That had the money or made the money.
And they made some money, you see, but still they were willing to make more. They were singers, you understand. I find people up there in that Delta from way out in the hills because they're good blues singers, but they just went there to make some money. But those who did live in the Delta, they were stripped of everything they had.
This is the sharecropper you're talking about.
Yeah,
I was talking about the musician, what brought the musicians in the Delta, if it was the money that they could make.
Yeah, you just imagine, though, at that time getting 50 cents a hundred, cotton, you understand? If he made $2 or $2.50 a day, well, he'd have to work a whole week out here in the hills to do that.
So you go over the
You wouldn't think that. I'm just telling you something.
Mm-hmm.
But that actually happened. But if a man could make $2 or $3 a day over there, well, he could feed his family pretty good.
Do you have any idea why the blues faded out in Mississippi during the 1930s? And in the late 1930s, the blues singers started fading. The old country blues.
Yeah.
Real down home blues, the real good blues. Seemed to start
Well,
fading out. The new style seemed to be coming in. Did it happen during the Depression?
No,
Jukebox caused this, or?
That's it. That's where the blues started going down there. You see.
The jukebox thing.
Yes, sir. In other words, now you had to jump out of the blues to what we call a semi. I call it a semi. I always did use that word, a semi. That's something in kind of between. You had to have someone that would pick them up in a way of whether it's having a frolic, or I call it a frolic, a party, dancing, something like that. You can't all dance by old blues like we call regular old Delta blues.
Didn't they dance to them on house parties? Didn't they dance to the guitar rhythm, like Charlie?
No, see what they finally got to, because you don't remember that, but what they actually did there I'd say from about 40, about 40, see, they began to use bands like, see, play the guitar and a couple of drums and trumpets and cornets, and have a little band like that, you see.
Yeah, we play in a little club.
That's right, and that began to take over. And when they put these records on the jukebox, you understand, and especially in these restaurants, that would create more attention than would when a man was playing regular old blues, you understand.
Part of Juke House, or
yeah, that's right.
Or like this time, you was telling me last time how you go up there sometime on a Thursday night where Patton would be, and y'all would just in a house, and they play, all night long.
That's right.
Is this what they call a house party?
Well, yes, kind of a house party. Just it's customary to get together and sing, kind of be happy and so on like that.
people would
But,
charge admission for people to come in.
Now, there's one thing that I want you to know this now. We see, as we talk about this change from blues now, what happened with these old jukeboxes, you understand? Well, after 50, then the jukebox changed. That type of music, that semi in there, you see, that was a blues, then the jukebox took over, whereby they had a little more rhythm tunes, you understand, a little higher up in the orchestras, you understand.
So
Bands, yeah.
Started driving the little bands out of bed.
That's right. So the little bands had to go. It's what the old saying is, the big fish was eating up the little fish now, you know. And you take today right here on TV, it's going to make another change, because this folk music is going to have a great band on the people today. It's going to be, and you watch it. I won't live to see it, but it's right on the verge right now. In other words, what's going to have to do? Folk music is going to do the very same thing that a blues singer could do way back in the early stages, like 1920 to 1930, where it would be a kind of a lonesome attitude.
Just playing by himself.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's what this folk music is going to do now. It's going to bring you, you'll just kind of feel like, I'll use this, get sorry for yourself. You understand? It gives you another feeling, so to speak. But I see it coming. I think I do.
I think you get a pretty good idea. If you had to take a guess as to when the Negroes first started playing blues on the guitar, would you say it was the 19th or 20th century? Would you say it was before 1900 or after 1900 when they really began to play guitar?
No, 1900, no. The blues setup didn't start until actually about 1922.
Do you think, they were playing like, let's say...
Oh, now, blues has been forever.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm talking about the back in the
Yeah, no, blues go back to the antebellum days or the slavery days, you understand.
I think they go back that far.
Oh, yeah, it goes back that far.
What about on guitars? Would you say they started, the old average Negro on a farm or plantation might have started playing the guitar before 1900, playing blues, and what I'm saying is creating blues.
Yeah, but nobody didn't pay no attention to it.
But they were creating them many
That's
years before.
yeah, that's right.
You think blues came from spirituals?
Yeah,
Or you think they
it's a spiritual arrangement.
created out of spirit?
That's right, yeah.
But the sound was kind of an arrangement from
See, the regular old blues that even my day, there's very little in the blues song that would detract you from what we might say that would be anything that wouldn't be morally. They brought it in later, began to put certain things in songs and words, just like we hear today, you understand. But back then, but in the old time, going back before really the blues days, they still had blues, but it was just sentimental. It was something to please people, and maybe a little together, maybe once a week, Saturday night, they get together and have, those things. Well, that's to make them feel good, and it did. It no doubt helped them.
When do you think the Delta blues began?
1920, about 1922.
They really were strong by the 20s, in other words. In other words, this one they really started playing them strong, as far as you could tell.
Well, the blues, actually, wasn't many records in 1922 on blues.
What about, say, in person? Do you think they were playing the blues in the Delta a long time before records ever came out?
Oh, good gosh, yeah. My goodness, yeah.
That's what I was getting at, how long they might have been playing the Delta style.
As long as the Delta's ever been there.
In other words, maybe they didn't get them on record until the 1920s.
No, 1920s.
But they've been playing them maybe ever since 1880, 1890, 1900, along in there. Who knows?
You see, in about 1922 to 1930, why, it's just like the people they got a hold of something now that they can bring it into the home, whereas before they'd have to go somewhere to hear blues or gather somewhere. You see, now everybody could have a record if they wanted. It was very popular.
Let me ask you this: most people who listen to blues today, now these are the modern people, who don't know much about blues, try to divide them up between city blues Or these people will have their own definition. Some of them know a great deal about blues, some of them don't. They try to divide blues up between city blues like Bessie Smith. They call her a city blues singer. And country blues, which is rural blues, like Charlie Patton. Do you think there's a real difference between these two types of styles of blues? Or was there a real difference between the Bessie Smith was
in other words,
blues?
Blues is just kind of like this. If you had a man that was singing the blues, we'll just say that he couldn't intermix with people. Once he didn't have much of an education, he was what we call the meat barrel type. Meat barrel. You smell a little bit, you see.
Smell?
Yeah. But Bessie Smith come along in that class, and they dolled it up. They put a little perfume on their singing, just pulled out from the old meat barrel, we call it. I've gone to many a house and I couldn't understand it, but I enjoyed it. See, all I could smell was old fried meat or something. That's what I call meat barrels.
Meat barrel blues.
Yeah, man, you can use it that way.
In other words, Bessie Smith, they added instruments, cleaned up the blues, and made it sound a little bit more.
That's high tone. That's right, high tone. You understand?
High toned.
In other words, you can take a gal, leave from the country and come to the city, and she gets back, and they say that she's a high-toned city gal now, you understand?
High-toned.
Yeah.
So you think these people might be right then, so the city blues were really these toned-up blues?
Yeah.
But y'all call it the country. Y'all didn't call it country blues. You call it meat barrel blues.
Yeah, if you want to use that word.
Meat barrel versus high-tone.
Yeah.
That'd be the two expressions.
Yeah, that'd be the two expressions.
Did the record officials know the difference between these two type blues, meat barrel blues and high tone?
No. Any of those people didn't know a thing except from sales. If they didn't sell, they knew that. They made money. They made money, then they knew that too. That's the only way you can tell about this blues business. You understand?
Well, this is. I noticed you pointed out something before. The reason you sent a lot of your talent to Paramount was because they didn't want to test pressing. You could just pick him up and let telegraph lately that they were coming.
Yeah.
And so therefore they took more of the country singers or the meat barrel singers, we might say, than say Victor.
Yeah.
But was he selling as many records? I mean, was he telling you this was selling? Is this the reason you kept on sending this type of singer to Lee, or was it because you could send them to him faster?
The only thing that labeling was doing was just trying to stay in business.
Just trying to keep recording.
Yeah, hoping something was going to happen. That's all there was to that.
Maybe was Patton maybe their best seller of the meat barrel type singers?
No doubt.
So the idea in those days was just record new talent and keep recording.
Keep moving, hoping something would happen.
Hoping something would break big.
Yeah.
Now you like Jim Jackson, one of his songs.
Yeah.
Big.
Yes, sir. Kansas City.
Kansas City, that made that company a lot of money.
Yes, sir.
I see the point. Do you think most of the blues singers made a living playing music, or do you think they held regular jobs? I think you've answered that question.
Yeah. Well,
they didn't hold regular jobs, did they?
No, not as a rule.
And the best blues singers, matter of fact, didn't work at all, I think.
No.
You told me one time. They just played music for a living. And
well, they pick up a little change, you know.
I'd pick cotton once in a while.
Yeah, pick a little cotton.
Can you think of any reason why so many singers drink so much? Why the blues singer drank so much versus the preacher who didn't, or the average Negro who didn't?
Well, I tell you, all musicians they couldn't even make a song, or they couldn't even sing it if they didn't have emotional feeling. So, in other words, there's one thing about most people. I don't care what anybody says. They're either going to drink a little whiskey or take dope, one or the other. Don't need one or something to stimulate.
I'm talking about musicians.
Lift them. It's called lifting. That's what it is.
Lift them up.
That's right. In other words, it's just like this. I've seen them. Maybe suppose one has been playing or singing for a good long time, and all he's been doing is picking up nickels and dimes. See, somebody give him a little loan, standing on the corner. And now then that he began to think about, I need to make some money. And maybe he's been all along maybe he has been taking a little dope. Maybe he's been drinking a little. But now when he comes to where he can get on a record of maybe make some money, I believe he's going to make some money, he needs a little better lift.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason they drink, or the reason they would take some dope or something like that.
Now, did you ever find many of them taking dope? I mean, I know Jim Jackson's on my, I've ever heard you mention it.
Now, dope now, back in the day, they couldn't get regular dope. Their dope was this old canned heat.
Oh, canned heat was their type of dope.
The dope, or either paregoric or antiseptic. Antiseptic, one of the biggest. Antiseptic was equal to anything you could think of.
Was this alcohol now?
Yeah.
That
They couldn't. Well,
a lot of moonshine was actual booze.
Yeah, but they could have the money to get them. A lot of them couldn't have the money to get the moonshine, but they could get antiseptic anywhere.
So they drink that.
Yeah.
Or something
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
right. Yeah. Well, what they do, they just buy it and just go on to the house and take cotton, and they just strain it through cotton, you understand, and get the alcohol out of it.
Do you suppose most of the ones who recorded blew their money real quick? Or did any of them ever save their money, or did they spend as fast as they got it?
No, they spent it just as fast as they got it. Well, when they got it, they didn't save it down. I can truthfully say that.
Do you remember the time, the old Bracey told me about the time he got paid by Paramount?
Mm-hmm.
He says he decided to put his money in the bank. It was a $900 check. He said he went to McRae's, and McRae wouldn't cash the check, and you called finally. He said he put it in the bank, and he said, next thing he knew, the bank failed, and said he lost his money. He finally got back $500.
Yeah.
$900. He said he never would trust the bank after that. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I remember that. Sure.
I don't know why he decided to put his money in the bank. Maybe you told him it was hard times coming and put it in the bank. You know?
Yeah. Well, I didn't think the banks break either.
And so forth, but maybe you just trying to tell him to save his money.
Yeah.
You know, and, he said he put it in the bank.
Yeah.
Listen, would you say that Tommy Johnson would sound better in person or on his records?
On his records.
He did sound better on his records?
Yes, sir.
Why was that? Why do you think?
Well, in other words, you'd be kind of somewhat detracted from the way he kind of hissed. He hissed, you know, like a snake, you know, when a hissing. Yeah, that's right. You'd notice it and detract from his singing, but on the record you wouldn't hear that. You wouldn't see
because
it.
he chewed that tobacco all the time? Or
No, he just naturally, he
And
tongue-tied.
That's
right.
Saying,
Yeah, that's right.
He did that he did it an awful lot.
Yeah.
You think that was a nervous habit or just a...
Yeah, it was a nervous habit, and you know, you just kind of feel for him, and you hear him sing. And as far as getting the real touch of it, you wouldn't do it till they put it on the record. And you take people right today that's on phonograph records. I don't care what anybody says. You could hear one of them, they sound good, but after you put them on the record, it doesn't sound good at all.
You never knew it.